Cursed by the old gods of Bethany. We are four souls destined to review the 1001
movies,
albums,
songs,
and TV shows you must consume before you die. Until then, we are the Immortals.
And this is episode 156.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're so close to 160.
It's true. It's true.
Who is going to be our 160 person?
Me.
Sarah.
I haven't decided
my
what
God.
I'm going to do yet, though. I need to...
I'm very excited.
It's like, I realize, like, I don't want to squander it, you know?
Well, then you definitely should do Food Fight.
We were talking about Food Fight, which is my favorite, one of my favorite bad movies. Like, my favorite, just, like, worst movies ever made. But I will not subject all of you to that and make you talk about it. I will just subject you to it so we can talk about it during the movie.
Got it.
I am not looking forward to Pedro's time.
Why?
He's picked some good stuff. Maybe.
Well,
Pedro
what
pick?
if he makes
Last
us watch
Crusade.
Blood Diner?
Oh.
Oh, shit. He really likes Blood Diner.
I really love
You
Blood
picked,
Diner.
you
You've
picked Last
picked-
Crusade once, and what else did you pick?
Hey Arnold.
Oh,
Hey
right.
Arnold,
Hey
yeah.
Arnold was a great pick.
Yeah.
Were those
Oh
my
yeah,
two?
that is a good pick. Last Crusade is
I feel
fine.
like I might have had a third.
Yeah, Pedro was mad that they only had Raiders on the list.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's a totally reasonable critique. That makes sense to me.
I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Indiana Jones.
Yes!
There you are.
And I'm Pedro.
And
JC is a dog, because they named
Dun
the
dun
dog
dun
Indiana.
dun
The dog.
dun.
I just saw they changed the screenwriter for Indiana Jones 5.
Well,
I keep forgetting there's an Indiana
hey,
Jones
look.
5.
I mean, look, odd-numbered Indiana Jones movies are good, so, and even-numbered ones are bad, so, you know, we're on an odd.
They got the guy who made This Is Us.
Are you saying?
I
Sorry,
love
are
Temple
you
of Doom.
You're wrong.
Nope.
Like, you're just
Wait, is
wrong.
it gonna have Harrison Ford in it?
Mm-hmm.
He's almost dead. What is he gonna do?
He might die in this one.
Well, that was the exciting thing about watching Blade Runner 2049, because I had this very, because he...
No spoilers because I haven't finished it.
You've begun it, but not finished it?
I think so, yes.
This
my
is
God.
this is going to be a non-spoiler, I'm going to say.
Okay.
It
But
is a
also
spoiler,
finish the movie you started.
but not about the actual story. Because obviously in Force Awakens, Han Solo is not in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And Harrison Ford famously hates his own career. So I was watching Blade Runner where he actually reprises his performance. I go, if he dies in this, Indiana Jones is fucking dead in the next
Oh yeah,
movie.
then the story is he's just killing off all his
but
characters.
he survives Blade Runner.
So there you go.
That's a
Harrison
spoiler.
Ford
It
is
that
one
is
of my most
absolutely a spoiler.
favorite
That is
movies.
like the definition of a
time.
spoiler, Austin.
When did you start this movie?
Oh no,
Months and months ago.
he should be spoiled on things. Like that's fine, but we can't say it's not a
There's
spoiler.
like one scene where you go like, maybe he could die because there's an action scene, but you know he's not going to. It's not part of the story. Like, it's fine.
No, you.
It's the meta story.
I don't know what the story is. I got like half an hour through and I'm like, this is way too late. I'm going to table this for later.
For months.
I would like everybody to know that the Pokemon of the week is Quilava, which is the
Ooh.
second evolution of the fire starter, and it remains fucking lame. They're just two-toned little voles that sometimes have fire on them and are dumb.
Is Witness with Harrison Ford on
Yes.
the list?
Oh, I don't
Yes.
know. I think it is.
We did it, actually. We covered Witness.
No, Let's
What?
Take Five
Let's
did.
take 5 covered Witness. I
remember
don't know.
watching it. I thought because I had to.
I think we all watched it together for funsies, though. Like
Oh,
after
maybe.
a podcast or something.
I love
No.
Witness. That's one of my favorite movies.
It's good.
I love Witness, yeah.
It's really good. Explaining to you in detail how to kill someone with corn.
It's very important.
It's very important. Never travel. Very important. Never leave your home. Very important lesson.
It's also what we learned from Misery.
Always
Another-
leave your home.
No, always leave other people's home. Never
Yeah,
leave your own home,
always
or you
leave
might get
a
stuck
home
in a
that Kathy
snowstorm.
Bates is in. That's the lesson of Misery.
I just looked up what the 156 Criterion film is, and it's the very good documentary Hearts and Mind, all about the Vietnam War. Let's check back in with JC watching the Vietnam War. How's that going?
It's really good, but last night I did have a dream I was a helicopter pilot in a jungle.
That's not great.
Oh, wow.
How long is this Ken Burns documentary?
Very.
It's 18 hours.
Jeez. Ken Burns. He had an editor.
Like on hour 5 or 6, I'm 3 episodes in, and each episode is like the length of a movie.
I never did. The only Ken Burns I've seen start to finish is his National Parks, which is actually quite good and
It
is
is good.
a relatively reasonable 8.
Can I make a case for the Vietnam War?
Really? Is it good?
Yeah, so I tried to watch the Civil War and could not really get into
I've
it.
attempted that a number of times.
I really like this because there are, so number one, there is definitely photos and they do the Ken Burns in and out thing on them, but there's also, it's Vietnam, so there's lots and lots and lots of video footage. And the fact that there is video footage is this very interesting sort of bubble of history, because they talk about how in World War II there was I don't know what the word for it is, but it's it wasn't censorship, but there was a press gag, you couldn't take pictures of soldiers in battle and send them back to the New York Times. And this is sort of historically the first war we saw on TV.
Right.
And so it's this really interesting, just the fact that we have all this footage.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It's just symbolically just really interesting to watch. And there's lots of video, and he has lots of people who were alive then who were either Vietnam vets or who were in the Viet Cong or all these other different factions.
That is really cool. That's very different than a normal Ken Burns.
And different families who there's this woman whose parents were involved, and they were Vietnamese, but they worked in the French government, and so she's from this really interesting intersection of people in Vietnam at the time. I really like it.
That's
again,
awesome.
It's an 18-hour documentary, so it's not fucking
well, I mean, if you
edge
think
of
of
your
it
seat
more,
shit, but it's very interesting.
Are they hour episodes? Is that?
No.
Oh,
they
there's
are
no
90 minutes to 2 hours.
Ooh, see, that's the problem. That's it's definitely not bite sized. I think the national parks, which I do really like, is I think they're hours, and I will say that the national parks is mostly Teddy Roosevelt being crazy stories, and it's real good. It's just about how Teddy Roosevelt made the first national parks, but was so frustrated at his own rule that you couldn't hunt in the national parks that he kept finding excuses to kill animals and say that they were possibly a new species. And apparently at one point during dinner, he just stabbed a rat with a knife that was running across the campsite. And he's like, that looks like a new rat. And they were like, not a new rat, dude, just a rat.
Wait, so it's okay to kill animals if they're a brand new species?
Yes.
Then they
on
get
a
studied.
national park?
for specimen. So that you
Okay.
could that was the exception. So apparently he leaned in to that exception because you know what Teddy Roosevelt liked? Shooting animals.
I watched his the 4-hour one about the Roosevelts. It's a very easy 18-hour.
Yeah, that's a
not
good one.
8-hour thing.
I watched
My friend watched it, but I
the
didn't really
Prohibition
watch it.
one is awesome. We watched the Prohibition one and watched it very quickly.
I've never seen it.
Yes, you have. Or maybe I just did it. I watched. No, you know what? I think the Prohibition one is only maybe 6 hours or maybe 8 hours, and that's what it was. It was so interesting that I watched it in a day. I just turned it on at I had a free Saturday and I turned it on for fun. I'll watch the first episode at 10, and I called Austin and I was like, I am still watching this documentary about Prohibition. It's cool. Everyone should watch it.
That's cool.
He has a
The
new one.
other
Oh, go ahead.
cool thing about the Vietnam War, this is my last plug, is that there are a lot of things that happen in it. I think every war is prescient to our experiences today.
Oh, yeah.
But the kind of conversations that they have, especially about journalism and national scandal and all these sort of different intersections. The episode I just watched was about this reporter who did a video story about these American soldiers burning this Vietnamese village because they thought it was full of supplies for the Viet Cong, and it was sort of this first sort of really objective look of being so this is what we actually do when we're in other countries, and the backlash, and Lyndon Johnson calling the head of CBS and being are you trying to fuck me?
Amazing.
all this really like stuff that's like, oh, like this basically happens every day now. And also
Not wrong.
I really like it because Lyndon Johnson did some good things for us, but if you watch the play all the way, you would never know that maybe he wasn't that great.
No,
So,
Lyndon Johnson was like,
I'm just glad to see this.
well, and he was also like both an amusingly and terrifyingly vulgar, crass bully of a man. Like the level of like insane shit that he said to people and did to people. Like he was known for whipping his dick out in the Oval Office. Like this is like as a power play. Like not sexual harassment, but like look at my dick. I'm whipping it out in this conversation.
It
I
could
feel
be
like
both.
all the way is very much like, he's like your grandfather who loves to swear
Yeah, that is
and yell at other
not
men
correct.
his age. And I'm like, no, Lyndon B. Johnson was a dick. Like
he was like a
we
terrible
love the Great
person.
Society, and I'm really glad we have some things from it. But also, he was like, we really need to eradicate communism, and I don't really give a fuck about anything else.
I'm just saying
So
that
let's
when we
send more
talk
people
about,
over there.
I mean, I have concerns about Amy Klobuchar's behavior with her staff, but when we have those concerns, let's remember that we
Right.
like Lyndon Johnson.
Everyone is valid, but also Lyndon Johnson. What the fuck?
Was that All the Way movie good? The HBO adaptation of it
I didn't watch it. I watched the play.
with Cranston?
No,
Oh.
this theater, the big theater in Seattle did it.
Oh, cool.
And so I watched some other white man on a stage. It
I
does
mean-
like go into like how he was like, okay, cool, let's have the FBI spy on Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, that's another thing he definitely did.
And also like Lyndon Johnson being like, I care so much about the plight of Black Americans. When you're
Big
like,
fuck.
dude, like, please.
Oh, he was also a very racist man who said
He was.
very
I think isn't
racist
All the Way
things.
written by Robert Schenken? Hold, please. I have to do a Google. Robert Schenken also, if it's by him, he also wrote a play in 1 week about like right after Trump was elected about like what the future will look like after Trump, and it's really like
Can't wait to not read that.
not good. It's not good. It was on Broadway. He was like, I wrote it in a week in a white hot fire, and you're like, yeah,
Oh, no.
I can tell. It's very much a white fire. He did write All the Way, and then he wrote. Let me find the name of this Trump play. Hold, please, for this very good radio that we're doing.
While JC is looking for that, I just want to share something from my morning as we were talking about a white hot flame, which was, we were talking about opponents of criminal justice reform and where they came from in the state. Had learned that there was a prosecutor from White County, Illinois, really against criminal justice reform. There was just a whole room of us being like, it's really called White County? It's just called White County. The White County. It's like,
Just
yep.
called county in Illinois usually.
Yeah, just called county. Yeah, right. Downstate Illinois, it's like, that's just, they're all White County, right? But yeah, that's its name. White County.
It's called Building the Wall.
Cool.
Came out in 2017.
Of course it is. Bryan Cranston got another Tony nomination
Oh, really?
for
Yeah.
an adaptation of a podcast movie. He started a network,
Oh, cool.
which looked really cool because they had like
Network in, weirdly prescient movies.
well, so the way that they filmed it on Broadway is like they would have like the news, the desk, but they would have live cameras there and TVs up around the stage. So when you have like the cameraman on the stage moving around, that is what's actually on the screen. So it was all this kind of
Oh,
live
that's cool.
camera work. Heard the play was fine, but it looked like it was cool to see. And also Tatiana Maslany's in it. So
Well, cool. Speaking of podcasts, we should probably do podcast stuff.
no, I know what Pedro's been watching.
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's it.
good
It's
stuff.
almost on
Yeah,
season
are you
3.
watching it? Are you squinting into the dark at shapes, trying to figure out what the fuck is happening?
No, that was last week.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah, but we haven't seen the new episode yet.
So we're
Again,
still
I'm not
complaining.
letting Austin rule my timeline.
Okay.
No, we have episode 4 is aired,
Stop! It hasn't.
and we all loved
Help.
it because you're on
If you're
Greyjoy.
listening,
Just kept
HELP. We are not in the future.
Oh my god.
Someone send assistance.
Yeah.
I'm being held captive in the past.
It's intense.
I know.
You think Arya is okay to just go around and take the faces of everyone that died last episode?
Oh, it's like after you do a big battle in a video game, you just kind of collect all the stuff.
Oh, totally. Just like loot the bodies.
Yep.
All the loot.
It's just this face will be good. This face will be good.
Yep.
Put it in the bag.
Yes, put in the
Put it
inventory.
in the bag. Also, she's Azor Ahai, so let's refer to her by her princely name that was promised.
Well, she might be if they bothered to actually care about the mythology, which they didn't, but that's okay.
Well, now that part of the mythology is over because
Right.
everyone...
No, they decided they didn't care, and now it's done, which is fine.
Melisandre, a really nice redemption arc. When she fell down at the end, no spoilers, I felt a palpable sigh of relief exit my body. I was like, go forth.
She Donovan'd it.
Sure, man.
Let's talk about podcast stuff.
Yeah, I'm ready to
I'm
talk about this
tired.
movie right now.
All right, let's get into the actual episode. We, of course, are reviewing the 854th entries in all these lists, and let's hear where they all are.
We watched The Piano.
The album was In It for the Money by Supergrass.
The song is Between the Bars by Elliott Smith.
And the TV show is The Great British Bake Off. But first, let's go right to the movie segment, where we're going to talk about...
The Piano. Do 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 do. It's like that.
She came to a strange land in search of a new life.
We can't leave the piano.
But there are too few of us here to carry it now.
She came to a husband she had never met.
And with time, I'm sure she will become affectionate.
And discovered a passion that would change her world forever. Holly Hunter, Harvey Keitel, Sam Neill, The Piano.
Okay, so The Piano. Take yourself back to 1993. Jane Campion is at a typewriter, feverishly typing, creating
for the movie
a
that
very
came out that
brainy...
year.
Sorry, what?
So the movie came out that year. She's like, fuck, I gotta get this script done. We're going to Cannes in like a week.
It was raining outside, and she was like, mud! And then she wrote. That's that typewriter. So, The Piano is a 1993 movie set in New Zealand, directed and written by Jane Campion, a fucking player, may we say. It is about a young woman who is mute, I guess is the right word.
Yeah.
She's mute. She's a musician who plays the piano, and her little daughter. They are, I think it's like during it's like the mid 1800s or so.
1858.
Her father arranges a marriage for her to a dude in New Zealand who is like a colonizer. He is a colonizer in New Zealand.
Dr. Alan Grant.
She goes there. She's shipped there to marry him. So her whole life sort of revolves around this piano and playing piano. It's sort of the way that she communicates with the world and expresses herself. Of course, pianos are very heavy and they're very hard to take across the ocean. And so when they get there, the piano is left on a beach, and then eventually her new husband, who she does not really get along with, sells it to Harvey Keitel. In yet another Harvey Keitel role we've witnessed on this podcast, who sort of develops an attraction to this woman and then has her come to the house and play piano for him. Wiggle eyebrow.
Yes. Very, very wiggly eyebrows.
Very incredibly wiggly, writhing, gasping eyebrows. So that is the brief summary. What did we think? I fucking love this shit. There were some things I didn't love about it, but we'll just get that out of the way.
Yeah, I enjoyed this
So good.
way more than I thought I would. I was
It
particularly
was
surprised
so
to find out
good.
it was an original screenplay because it felt like a novel.
She wrote a novelization after,
Oh, interesting.
so there is
Oh
a
my
novel.
god, I gotta read it.
Yeah.
It's
I felt like it was like a really like a very concise short story. Like it had like that.
Yeah.
It had sort of like an Alice Munro sort of like melancholy, quiet feel to it, and I was so into it.
I was super into it. I was like, I really liked that there are not good guys in the movie. Neither of the guys, neither Sam Neill nor
Not good,
Harvey.
like men. Yeah.
Yeah, neither Sam Neill nor Harvey Keitel is like a good dude. They are both depicted as doing some version of trying to be a good dude in the context that they are in, but even in that context, they fail. So, like,
Yes.
like even within their own societal like lens, they fail at being good men. And like the movie like stays with that and doesn't like try and make sort of a pat nice answer to the whole story, which it was very non-Hollywood.
Yeah, I think
it felt much more
the levels of complexity that this reached, I feel like were pretty much only possible because this story and the direction had sort of this like very intentional female vision behind it.
Yup.
Because it is very easy for me to see how like if they had some dude do this who's like a male Jane Campion.
Who's the male Jane Campion?
That's a weird question.
I mean,
we say the opposite all the time.
Oh, that's definitely true.
But like,
give me
it
a
would just be
second. I'll
very
think of
easy
this.
for it to become this like weird. I don't know. Like it was so, when I was watching it, it just felt so fragile in my hands, like so delicate.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it is
at
that
any
thing
moment
of, like-
something was going to happen
Sorry.
that would really piss me the fuck off, and then it didn't.
we
and
kind of.
that was astounding.
It was before JC started the podcast, but I did think of a lot about a podcast movie that essentially kind of was the male version of this story, which was Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven.
Which I did not like very much.
Yeah.
And no, I think you're right. They're very similar movies in a lot of ways.
Pedro,
Interesting.
this is Richard Gere. He and his
Grass.
daughter.
Oh yeah, all the grass.
A lot of grass.
Grass, the movie.
But yet,
That's how you
Love
know
Triangle.
it's a Terrence Malick movie.
I like
this
Is
one
it grass?
better.
Is
Me
it
too.
waving in the wind? Great.
He had a kid as well.
It's funny. I went into this movie not knowing anything about it, except that Anna Paquin was in it because I have a particular interest in like young Holly, like young.
Is she
Oscar winners.
the
She's
little
the
daughter?
Yeah, she's the daughter, and she's the second youngest
Bloody hell.
Oscar winner after Tatum O'Neal for Paper Moon. But she did win. She won when she was 11 when she was in this movie. And
She won for this?
She won for this, and like I mean, her performance is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Especially for an 11-year-old. Like the amount of emotional complexity she's putting into it is like crazy. But I did not know until the end of the movie that this was written by a woman. And as soon as I finished it, I was like, oh, of course it was, because I'm having that reaction, particularly to a love story that I only have when it's written from a female perspective, because I'm so used to the male perspective on heterosexual love stories that, like, there's this, like, weird thing that happens when I watch a movie written from a female perspective that, like, I feel just, like, deeply invested, whether I know or not that it's written by a woman. And this was very much that. I mean, everything from like the sex scenes are clearly written by a woman. Like there's just like
The close shots of Harvey Keitel's ass.
yeah, which are
Multiple
great. I am
times.
here for those.
You see his dick in the movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
a
fine.
couple times.
It's Harvey Keitel in the 90s. It's like, it's shocking it's not in smoke.
Yeah.
He's strapped. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
But like it, and like also like even the main character is not. The movie doesn't try to answer. It sets up it in some ways sets up a bunch of mysteries at the beginning and then doesn't try to answer them. It just like lives in this woman's life. Like the whole movie, like the movie starts with like the line, like the voice you are hearing is not my voice. It's the voice in my head. And like like that's interesting in and of itself. Like that you're like the reason that she's mute and the reason that the piano is important to her, who her daughter's father is, like all of these things are sort of like, I thought the movie was going to be about solving those mysteries, and it decided to do something much more interesting.
Yeah, okay, can we talk about Holly Hunter?
Oh my god.
Her
so good
performance in this movie is literally, it is out of this world. It is breathtaking. I feel like I can count on one hand, like, the amount of times I have watched somebody, like, perform at the level that she performs in that movie. I was like, so when they did the little voiceover at the beginning, like, I really liked that, and then I was like, oh, this is how they're gonna cheat. Like, there's gonna be moments where it, like, comes back and it's gonna tell me what she's thinking, and that's gonna be sort of the conceit for the movie. And then it doesn't. It never does that. And you always know, like, exactly what she's communicating, even, and, like, when she is, like, without her ever speaking a word, like, when she's choosing not to communicate, even though she never speaks. Like, she is operating on a fucking, like, seraphim level of, like, acting in this.
It really, I mean, sure.
It's just, like,
yeah,
it blew my mind.
It's really pretty impressive.
I looked it up because I was looking up kind of a lot of the Oscar stuff about this movie, because I'm like, man, this movie's just incredible. What? I know it's the best picture. What did it lose to? Okay, Schindler's List. That that's also who Jane Campion lost to for director. Yeah.
Which, like, yeah, it sucks though, because the direction in this movie is I mean, it's really a beautiful movie.
Well, she did win the Palme d'Or, which is huge,
which is
and
great.
She was only the second ever female director nominated for Best Director with this movie at that time. It's only been one
first to have Best Director and Best Picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Holly Hunter also played the piano in this movie, which was just super impressive.
She learned it for this movie, right?
Yeah, because like Michael, I think she was like an accomplished pianist before this movie. I'm pretty sure she could do it before.
Oh, really?
That's
okay.
Cool.
But like the guy who wrote the score for this, like it's not like fucking hot cross buns. Like it's an actual score. And I liked sound is like really important in this movie.
Yes.
And like the thing that I like best is that so when people are playing the piano for fakesies, you can't hear the actual sound of the keys being pressed, which makes an actual sound. Like it's like a of like air and then like the sound of the finger touching the key. Like you don't hear it every time the finger touches the key, but there's like just like these little sounds, and like because she was playing it, you could hear all those sounds. And especially because like this instrument was like her mode of sort of constructing these like big sort of emotional tableaus and expressing joy. Like it felt very important to hear all of the sounds that she was making with that piano, and that was really cool.
I just like this movie has so much to say. Like it's like reading a novel in that like it has so much to say about female sexuality. It has so much to say about it just like it's like having it makes me realize how lacking, like how much great art we are missing because of the underrepresentation of women in directing and writing, because it is so different than, like, in many ways it's the plot and like the, you know, the cast and everything else is like classic Oscar bait, right? Like it's 1993 Oscar bait, right? Although I do really love that only the women got acting nominations. Not that Sam Neill and Harvey Keitel aren't wonderful, but I was like, yeah, you know what? Good. That like the, you know.
Well, yeah, because they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine. And Anna Paquin.
They're not breathtaking. I'm not fucking packing my bags and going to Saturn because I'm like, we'll never get better than this. And
I really like Anna Paquin in this movie, who has like she's such a heavy lift to do as simultaneously her own character with like a lot of characterization to do, and her mother's mouthpiece in a lot of the scenes with this sort of like angry channeling of her mother's emotion that she does. And, like, the kid is just phenomenal. I mean, it's just, like, it's one of those performances where you're like, I don't I believe that this is like that this person is not acting, that this is a person on the screen, and like it's. I mean, like, and her and Holly Hunter together are great. Her and Sam Neill together, I think, are in some ways even better. Like, that relationship is a really cool part of the movie. I felt like every side story in the movie could have been its own movie that I would have watched. Like, I wanted to watch, like, the movie that was Flora, the little girl, like, getting used to Sam Neill to the point where she calls him Papa. Like, I wanted to watch the movie about how Baines, Harvey Keitel's character, like, gets to the island and, you know, his whole, like, it's such a rich movie.
Yeah. Also, I did think that this, so, like, we get this, like, really multifaceted portrait of, like, female sexuality and all those beautiful words that Sarah said. I also felt like we got a much more complex story about what happens when men cannot control women's bodies.
Yes.
Like, both from, like, a very sort of, like, dark and villainous perspective, and also this sort of what I think if this had been in more clumsy hands, like, what would be construed as, like, the good guy.
So what's funny is,
because
like,
what he does is not good. And
yeah.
what they kind of build out of it is something that's good, but where it starts is, like, a super shitty place.
I was thinking actually a lot about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
When I was watching this, because I think a lot of what George R.R. Martin is doing in Game of Thrones, the book series a lot more than the show, which has serious problems when it comes to sexuality. But he's doing a lot about what does it mean to be a good person. When he talks about relationships, he's saying, what does it mean to be a good person in like a society that we're just going to like acknowledge off the bat is fundamentally like built on rape and patriarchy. Like, does it matter? Do these things matter in terms of, you know, how you work in that system, and like what constitutes a good person if you're still participating in it? And like, I just think it's interesting because there's so much talk, because Game of Thrones has gotten so big, about the way that the show portrays female sexuality when there's very, very rarely a moment when a woman is having sex on screen that is not in some way coercive. Like, it's relatively rare. I mean, like, I can think of maybe like one or two scenes where that is true. Like, it's interesting to see this did that in such like a human and interesting way that really worked for me. I've been reading a lot of Game of Thrones fanfic, which is a lot of women, mostly women writers, like playing around with those characters, and I felt like that question of like, how do women view their own sexuality and the sexuality of the men that they interact with within a culture where those men fundamentally are wrong about their level of ownership over women's bodies.
A little intertextuality,
if you will.
as my friend likes to say.
Well,
if you will.
The way they handled the romance in this movie, I thought was like fascinating, because like I remembered it was a romantic movie. It's been so long since I've seen this. Essentially, I only remembered the first 15 minutes really well. Like, I remembered the piano on the beach. Like, that image is like stuck with me forever. But like,
and that first time she smiles in the whole movie while she's playing it.
Oh my
and
God.
her daughter is dancing on the beach.
It's very good.
And I was upset. Okay, keep talking. Sorry.
Because like so often, like when you have like a romantic structure in a story, or even like a simplified like rom-com structure, you have like the first act kind of be like, oh, they don't know each other, now they're gonna know each other and fall in love. This has another kind of arc of like not knowing each other, but it's to begin in such a terrible place that I'm watching going like, how am I ever gonna find this to be good?
Yeah.
And
I was so confused because the cover of this movie, like on Wikipedia, is like Holly Hunter smiling, and like Harvey Keitel is like kissing her shoulder, and I was like, and then he was like, okay, so you get to earn back the piano, and it's for every key, you know, blah blah blah, and I was like, what the fuck?
And then by the end, when she like writes on the key, I'm like,
oh,
I'm in for this. But like, it began with, I'm like, oh, this is horrible, and he should be arrested.
And I think too, like,
It doesn't erase what he did either. It is like
No.
Yeah, and that's where I think Sam Neill sort of has the opposite
it's
trajectory,
the inverse.
where I will say Sam Neill's actions against Holly Hunter's character, the big thing that happens, it's been a long time since I've been that shocked in a movie. I exclaimed oh my god, out loud when it happened, just because it was, in some ways, it was so the trajectory of where that character was going, but it's still it was is he gonna cross that line? And then it's okay, we found the line, and then we just took a pole vault to it.
You've made me so angry.
I feel like I knew, I was hoping it wouldn't get to that, but as soon as he starts walking away with the axe, spoilers, it's a 5-minute trek through the woods scene, but I'm just oh god, something bad is gonna happen. It's just
well, Pedro, I worried about you emotionally throughout this film.
Why?
Because you have a very intense relationships to the characters of Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Where you blur reality and have a very confusing understanding of who they are as actual people and characters in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
How did you feel watching this movie where Dr. Alan Grant isn't good?
It was since they did have opposite trajectories for a lot of the film, he was mostly nice. Yeah. He was I'm take things slow. The one thing that he did that was a dickish move was not take her piano. Come on, that's just real easy. Just go back and pick it up.
The title of the movie, man.
Yeah. Come on. It's the one nice thing you can do. In contrast, Harvey Keitel, is that what you said?
Yeah.
He's doing all this horrible, creepy shit. So I'm okay, Sam is gonna swoop in or save the day, or maybe just maybe they'll grow together. He'll grab the piano. I don't know. And then, no, it's nope. And then
big old nope.
He gets worse and worse and worse and worse. He's not a good guy. It made me think of Damien in the third of the old Omen films.
I haven't seen the Omen 3.
Great.
Does
Sam Neill is adult Damien
right here with Omen 3 and the piano.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm here across as these things reach across the stars to each other.
Sam Neill plays Damien in Omen 3?
Yeah, he plays the adult Damien.
That's deeply strange.
What the fuck?
That's the weirdest fucking
thing.
So
that was a weird experience when I was
deeply strange.
Right? So
Can
I thought back to that a lot.
Embarrassing I did yesterday. I was trying to describe to someone who Holly Hunter is, and the only thing I could remember was more recent is that she was in The Incredibles. Amazing. And I was Mrs. Incredible.
Yeah.
That's who she is. But then I was roasted for how deeply unfeminist describing her as Mrs. Incredible.
You're not wrong.
She's Elastigirl.
Yeah. She's absolutely incredible at this. But my favorite performance of hers is still her in Broadcast News. Is
she's wonderful.
My favorite thing in the world.
She's really, really great.
Also, I noticed
this might be. I like this performance better. I will say though.
She has a weird Oscar trivia. I don't know how many people have actually had this happen before. Where in 1993, she obviously won Best Actress for this, but she was also nominated for Supporting Actress for a different role.
Weird.
She was up for The Firm.
Oh.
I forgot she's in The Firm.
The Firm is a weird movie.
Yeah.
I've seen The Firm many, many times because The Firm was one of the small number of VHSs that my Nana kept in the VHS, box under the black and white TV that was in the room that I stayed in when I was staying with her. So I'm a lawyer because I watched The Firm and A Few Good Men probably 1,000 times. And 12 Angry Men also.
Nice.
I have seen 12 Angry Men. I haven't seen those other two.
You should see A Few Good Men. That was one of my picks. JC, watch A Few Good Men.
Okay.
It's the best movie ever made.
Great.
It's pretty good.
I want to touch on two things that I think do not age well with this movie.
Yeah.
And the first is the way that Maori people are characterized in this movie. That whole thing is just one big cringe from start to finish.
Oh, yeah.
And upon watching it and, knowing that, she's from New Zealand, I think, and, I feel like it was very intentionally set there, and like this history is something she wanted to capture. All that said and done, I really don't think that like it's very stereotypical.
It's not good.
It's not really like lampshaded or inverted in any way.
Yeah, it's very like the sexualizing thing is very weird.
That part is really not good, and upon watching the movie, like it really doesn't need to be there.
No,
like it really does not actually add anything to the movie. Like this could not like we could just take Holly Hunter and Anna Paquin and like throw them in some like very wooded area in Scotland, and it would be the same movie. I guess it wouldn't be like a lush jungle or whatever, but like it would just be it just wouldn't be radically different. And I think the fact that like Harvey Keitel is this white man who is like wearing like Maori tattoos and all that stuff like really is just like it doesn't add anything. It's never it's like he's like wearing I just really that part was like a big no for me.
I kind of liked that because I enjoyed the imagery of how much like he shouldn't have those in a way that I think like was intentional in the movie. Like you really felt like this isn't your land either. Because like since because Holly Hunter and Anna Paquin feel so much like outsiders, they're brought to this land. They're being treated by these two men who are clearly not. This isn't their land either. Like it always just felt like a very like everyone's disconnected. And so to always see those tattoos on Harvey Keitel's face is just so jarring. Also because he still barely hides this New York accent. Harvey Keitel isn't a master vocal guy.
No. I think that's a cool take, but I struggle. I feel like it's generous. I struggle to see that in the movie.
Well, I think because Jane Campion decides not to answer a lot of the questions about Baines, like which I definitely like. Like I said, when I thought this was going to be the movie where we get the factual, the plot answers to why everyone is the way they are. I mean, there's so much in this movie. Like we don't find out why this dude ordered a mail order bride. Like everything is like left, like those plot questions are just like not explored. That was a particularly weird one because first of all the answer seems like it would be particularly interesting, and the result is white guy with tattoos, and we don't like. It's just weird.
Yeah, that part's a big no for me. I think in some ways, like, I think the way that they sort of they handle, like, the fact that, like, the movie never asks us to be, like, you're super cool with this relationship, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Not even at the end,
don't
really.
Appreciate sort of, like, the silence that, like, accompanies, like, this sort of, like, interracial, like, the background. Like, the Maori actors and characters don't have names. They're sort of treated as set pieces.
Yeah.
Very stereotypical set pieces. And that's not cool. I'm sorry, Sarah, I cut you off.
No, I think you're right. I mean, like, ultimately, like, it just clearly wasn't a priority for her.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I mean, it's objectification. They're a plot device, not, their plot device is not people, which isn't necessary. But, like, and so, like, this is, I mean, it's not a perfect film. I don't know, like, it's, but man, it's good.
JC, I wanted you to tell everyone about the text you sent me, how this film, in your mind, connects to another Jane Campion masterwork.
Right. I was like, I think we should read this as that Holly Hunter's character in Top of the Lake is like his great-granddaughter.
I've never seen Top of the Lake.
Top of the Lake is it was two miniseries. I've only seen the first. I still haven't seen Top of the Lake 2.
I've only seen the first one of Top of the Lake.
It is
the original.
Yeah, I mean, both...
It is literally the most depressing thing you'll ever watch, but it's fucking good.
I remember you pitching me on Let's Watch Top of the Lake 2, and like you were basically like, so this is the most depressing thing ever, and I'm like, I'm not convinced. I did not watch it.
I'm not going to rewatch it. One.
No, I'll never rewatch it, but it's really good.
But yeah, Jane Campion wrote and directed that miniseries, starring Elizabeth Moss, of a mystery, and no good answers come from it, but Holly Hunter is amazing in it, as you would expect.
She plays this like sort of like mystical guru type person who just like lives out in the plains and like speaks sort of mystically, and it's really great.
She doesn't just have white hair in the movie; she has the brightest, whitest hair,
and it's very long.
Yeah,
she looks like a god. It's cool.
So good. And obviously, JC and I love the Jane Campion film Bright Star.
It's so good.
With Ben Whishaw as Keats.
Cool.
So good.
That movie's so good.
So good.
Jane Campion is just really good at what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like have really amazing female driven stories and is not really preoccupied with answering audience questions with like these beautiful, I mean, like we could talk for like another hour about like some of the shots that are in this movie, and not of the ones that are in Parker P. Keitel's ass. Like that's also
those
fine,
are great.
But like
are they
the
great?
way that she works with like them when they're wearing the bonnets and like the way they move in the frame.
Oh, and
like
them hiding under the petticoats at the beginning.
Yes,
when
there's just so much.
Well, and then the shots of the piano when it goes overboard. Oh gosh.
And the seahorse.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
It's so good.
That part when Anna Paquin accidentally sees them having sex and then goes and like tries to kiss a tree, like.
Oh
there's
yeah,
just so much of this movie.
I think the small scene with Sam Neill and Anna Paquin where they have a little moment because Sam Neill has taken Anna Paquin back to wash the trees that she was humping is maybe the best thing I have ever, like the best concept of like, I guess I need to parent. Here's what we're gonna do.
It sets them up for Jurassic Park.
No,
which came out before this.
After.
Pile of shit.
This is Jurassic Park is 93, June of 93. This is October 93.
What a weird pair of things for an actor to be in.
For the movies. Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, The Piano. What's love got to do with it?
Well, yeah, and I mean Spielberg made Jurassic Park and Schindler's List literally back to back, and it came out.
Which is a crazy thing to do.
JC, what do you give it?
Okay. I think this is my favorite movie that I've had to watch for this podcast so far. I want to give it a 4.8.
That was what I was going to do as well. I'm going to give it a 4.8. This is a movie that is cool.
Like I want to watch it again.
No, yeah, it is joining my pantheon of great movies. It's really, really amazing. And it's odd that I don't see it very often. I feel like it's been pretty forgotten, all in all.
Yeah. I mean, I think those who have seen it still really like it. I think it's just kind of remembered for the performances,
but
not
it doesn't make lists. You know, it doesn't make yeah.
4.7 for me.
I was gonna give it a 4.7.
Hey, oh,
look at that.
Are you going to?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good for you.
5. 4.75.
God damn you so much.
There we go. Hey, that's pretty good.
That is The Piano. If you've not seen it, it's available on Hulu at the moment.
Very good.
It's very hard to mimic the sound of a piano with your voice. That's what I've learned in this segment.
That is true.
Now it's time for the album segment. Sarah, what did we hear this week?
We heard In It for the Money by Supergrass. By Supergrass is the second studio album of a band called Supergrass, which is a British 90s alt-rock band. It's clearly one of those things when I'm looking at like everything that I've looked up about it, that they were very popular in the UK. They never crossed the pond, but they were genuinely extremely popular in the UK to the point where for example, this is listed as Q, the magazine, listed this as number 57 in its list of greatest British albums ever out of 100 albums. So it was very well received in Britain. It's an alt-rock album. Who else listened to it?
I did.
Cool. What'd y'all think?
I thought it was great.
What'd you say, Austin?
I thought it was great.
You thought it was what? Dope?
Great.
It's like you thought it was woo? And then I was like, what? And it was like, you thought it was woo? That's what it sounded like. I also really liked it.
I thought it was fine. There was no song that I would have been sad to have come up on my Spotify 90s alternative rock playlist. There were a couple of songs that I genuinely liked. Let's see, I liked... First of all, I really appreciate that British rock bands, I think, more than American rock bands, are willing to put just, like, total joke songs on their albums. Mm-hmm. The song Sex is very funny. But I really...
I didn't hear Sex.
Oh, it's very funny.
I only did the original CD, so I only heard the first 12 songs. Gotcha. I didn't do the extended CD.
I liked the ones that were more acoustic. I was less interested in the ones that were sort of more traditional pop punk, or, you know, punk alternative rock. But when they went acoustic, I really liked what they were doing.
I liked the first song a lot. I thought it was a really good...
Yeah.
A really good opener, and I love the horns in it. I also, like, listened to this album via YouTube because for some reason Spotify was like, fuck you, JC.
Cool.
And it was great because, like, the act of, like, reading YouTube comments, like, under a song is, like, gives you, like, this whole other dimension of art where, like, someone had written, like, I can't believe two queefs thumbs down this. And it was very funny.
That's very good.
I was totally drawn in by the first song. Found it to be very catchy and fun, and then Richard III was like even more.
Richard
fun.
III is a very cool song. I liked that song a lot.
Like really, like the first nothing gets the back out the album. Like the first 6 songs are really good. Maybe not G Song as much, but like Tonight, Late in the Day, Sun Hits the Sky are all like really, really like. It's funny this didn't blow up in the U.S. because I feel like it could have. Like if you waited 5 more years, this is like this is right in like the Killer's wheelhouse.
And like the reason it didn't is because we had our own bands that were doing exactly this at about the same level, and so like you know what I mean, like they're not like, I guess my feeling is like they're not the Killers, right? They're not like as good as the really good international sensations around this era, and we had lots of America only, they're like super fun alternative rock bands, and so like. I think, I mean, the only reason that I don't know about this band is because they're British.
I feel like I could hear other bands in this music.
Yes.
Like, I felt like I could, I'm like, oh, like, the Strokes listen to this. Like, there's, like, that sort of, like, genealogical line of, like, a lot of sort of, like, alt-rock, like the Killers, I guess. I really heard the Strokes. And, like, some other things, like, even, like, the quality of, like, the lead singer's voice, I was like... There are dudes, like, really trying to do this now. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting to just hear it really clearly in this album.
Yeah, it was a blast. Like, it was like, I mean, it hits, like, what I listen to more often, like, where my tastes are. And this was, like, really good version of that. I am happy that this dumb list included this, so now I have this.
I'm, like, I guess I'm not as, like, into it as you guys are, but, like, I think it's good. I'm glad I heard it. I'm not quite as like up on it, just because there wasn't anything that stood out for me so much that I was like, oh man, that's a song I want to listen to like a million times. But I do think that ultimately, like, it's kind of cool to see like what Britain was doing at the same time we were doing the exact same thing and apparently not talking to each other.
Yeah,
great.
I will give it a 3.9.
4.25.
That's what I was gonna do.
Really?
4.25.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. We've all like fucking like we're what's that thing they do in the robot movie?
No.
We're drifting. The henges are drifting.
How dare you? We're moving on before these two catch on what their reference is.
Wait.
Now it's time for the song segment.
Let's go back to the drifting.
No, we're
thing.
not.
What?
It's time for the song segment.
Okay. This week we listened to Between the Bars by Elliott Smith.
Na 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 na. You can just edit that out.
Drink up, baby, stay up all night. with the things you could do. You won't, but you might. The potential you'll be that you'll never see. The promises you'll only make. Drink up with me now and forget all about the pressure of days. Do what I say and I'll make you okay and drive them away. The images stuck in your head.
Between the Bars is a song by Elliott Smith. Came out February of 97 in his fourth studio album, Either Or. That's the name of the album.
Is it either or? Is it either or, Pedro? Settle.
Generally, when it's paired with the or like that, I say either, but usually I say either. Like, I don't say me neither. I say me neither.
It works either or.
Yeah. I switch. I don't have
That's
to.
the. Go on.
Anyway, this is a short song, more of a poem, really, like straight up spoken poem, and it's quite interesting. It's so the two biggest explanations or whatever behind the lyrics are: this is one man alone with his bottle, and the bottle, the addiction, whatever, is talking to him. Or this is a man consoling his love interest who has the addiction, and him saying he will always love her, even though.
I took it as the first.
That's what I took it as the first time, but then I can see it both ways. I think they're both kind of interesting.
I think it's fair.
I saw a YouTube comment that said the bottle is singing.
Yeah. That's basically the same as the addiction singing.
Yeah.
Wow, that was like a very deep statement. The bottle is singing.
They went on for longer because it's a YouTube comment. I'm like, I get it.
Elliott Smith was a drinker.
Yes.
Could have been about himself.
He also did heroin and crack.
I think this is a personal song.
His life.
Mm-hmm. And may or may not have killed himself.
Probably killed himself.
Probably.
Although he did stab himself twice in the chest.
Which is
like that is it takes a level of commitment.
A pretty crazy way to kill yourself.
Fell
but
on his
he
sword.
also had a lot of drugs in his system when he died.
He
like
did.
a lot.
But prescribed levels. They did not find booze or illegal drugs in his system.
It's true, and there were no hesitation wounds, which is super weird.
So either his girlfriend killed him, or he killed himself, or any number of ways a knife can end up in his chest twice.
Yeah,
at
weird.
34.
Yeah, which sucks.
Quite a young dude, and a weirdly written post-it note suicide letter.
Misspelled his own name. It's a weird story.
The case is still open, apparently.
Yeah,
because they don't know.
Weird ass story.
Indeed.
You're making this song somehow sadder.
Yeah, it is. This song is super sad.
It is quite the sad song.
It is hard to find the saddest Elliott Smith song.
But
like,
this
that
is
feels
up
like it
there.
could be its own like mini-series podcast where you're just like, how do we determine what's the saddest Elliott Smith song? Because they're all a fucking drag.
Yeah, they're a bummer.
Well, also, like, the fact that this song moves so quickly and is 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
Like, I listened a couple times, like, oh, it just takes 2 minutes. I'm like, well, now I'm gonna
Yeah, I know, it's true.
Because it's just it's so quick. And it's like, there's not that many lyrics. And like, yeah.
Yeah. I really like this song.
Really good song.
Like,
it's a great song.
If this song comes up on my, like, folk pop and or singer-songwriter Spotify playlist, I'll be like, man, good song.
It is, as of March 2019, his most streamed track.
It is also featured in Good Will Hunting,
Yep.
along with 2 of its other songs.
It was.
And in a Rick and Morty episode.
I really like Elliott Smith's music because it's very, like, it's soft and it's very much like you're in the corner of the coffee house writing your poetry, JC, at 16 years old when you love nothing and no one loves you.
Well, his voice has a very, like, light and smooth quality to it, so it doesn't rub it doesn't grate on you ever.
His
And like
music
he'll
has
overlay
really,
it with his
like,
own voice
strong
too.
melodies too. Like he really loved the Beatles, and it sort of sounds like a very acoustic Beatles song.
And they aren't long like verses. I think that's like
They're real quick.
when you get like sad songs, sometimes like here's very dense like poetry like lyrics. This just really moves. While it's not like it floats by in a sad cloud. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie that when I was a senior in high school, I would put Either Or on a portable CD player and put my headphones in and lie in bed and look at my ceiling. Like,
did you cry? Did you weep softly?
Yeah, probably more than
that
once.
That seems right.
You know, like, it was, a lot of things were happening that year, and I found this album, and it really, like, I think that's just like what this album is for, when you're just like, I'm afraid to be who I am, and I'm afraid of who I am, and who I represent myself to be, and I don't understand why I was born, and like all of these really big things, but the bottle's singing, so that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Elliott Smith is my incubus. Sarah.
That makes sense to me. Why you gotta be mad about the things I like?
Hinges.
Austin, you like so many things.
It's true.
I do.
And many of them are not good.
So many of them are good.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Detective Pikachu comes out tomorrow.
I give that 5 inches.
Nice.
No, it comes out next week, doesn't
Holy
it?
shit.
Time Nazi.
Today's
I'm
May
so
9th.
upset that I knew that it comes out next week. Not
We're
tomorrow.
going. But we can't go on the 10th because we're seeing Werner Herzog speak.
True.
Anyhow, I'm cutting all
Werner
that.
Herzog. When I look into the eyes of Treadwell's bears, I look to see the mercy of friendship, but all I see is the indifference of nature.
Do you think Werner Herzog listens to Elliott Smith to pick himself up?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, he does. No, I think he gets high and he watches Cave of Forgotten Dreams.
He just watches it like, I remember that shit. I've been there.
Tripping balls in my dark apartment with my flickering one light bulb hanging from the window.
Remember how that movie ends with an albino zebra?
It does.
Okay, I'm tired.
An albino alligator.
Alligator, that's right. I was trying to figure out what...
For fuck's sake, Austin.
I've not seen it. Spoilers.
I saw it.
No.
I'm hinging this and moving on. I'm really hungry.
It's a documentary. It's the
Alright.
oldest cave painting in the world. It's spoilers for all of our existence.
I will give this 4.4 henges.
4.3.
4.4?
4.7.
All right, that is Between the Bars by Elliott Smith. Now it is time for something completely different. This is The Great British Bake Off. The Great British Bake Off was a BBC show. Now it's a Channel 4 show. It is a reality competition where a group of amateur bakers come into a tent and perform 10 weeks of challenges until one is crowned the top baker. It is ran for 9 series in the UK. 6 of them are weirdly in a weird order on Netflix.
This is true.
To my annoyance. And I have seen 3 of the 9 seasons.
I have seen...
Almost 3. I have 1.5 left. It's literally paused behind me right now.
So I guess I've seen 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen all the ones that are on Netflix except for the ones that are under the label of The Beginnings.
Yeah.
So I think I've seen 4.
So they did put... It's just, whatever. We'll get to that later, I guess.
The
but
4 most recent.
Okay. Yeah, so, and Pedro, I think I've shown you 2 episodes at like 2 in the morning.
I've seen 4 or 5 episodes. I saw of the first season, I think the last episode I saw was the one where they didn't let anyone go because someone was off anyway, so it wasn't really fair.
Yeah.
I may have seen the next episode after that, but that's about how far I got.
Of the most recent season? Or
whatever the one you showed me.
Okay, so the most recent season, on Netflix and on the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a huge international hit. It's had several different kind of like countries do its own thing. Partly because it's like one of the nicest shows ever made.
It's a delight.
So sweet, so kind, and I mean, we've covered a lot of reality shows on this program, and most of them are terrible, and not only because like they're poorly filmed, like early seasons of America's Got Talent. There's always such a like, so many competitive shows we cover have a real focus on the competitive nature.
Yeah,
and Bake Off really is such a kind community where no one's fucking anyone over. Like one I just watched, this poor girl was behind on her things, and two of the people helped her out by like breaking up part of the cookies to get on the platter for the thing.
And that happens like every episode.
Yeah.
It would never happen in a U.S. show. U.S. shows
They're
would
like,
have like,
love, do you need a bit of help? And they're like, yes, and I'm crying all over my fucking croissant. And they run over. And they like help and stack it in the like beautifully plated basket.
Like
anyway.
I watched one where like one of the women accidentally took another contestant's custard out of the fridge,
that's famous.
and
custard
so
cake.
uses his custard in the trifle that like they're competing against each other.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
And they like, but like they all, it's like they all work it out. Like it's interesting to me because like it's not that isn't played for a dramatic moment. Like the show does like focus on that moment that happened and how everyone feels, but everyone is very British and restrained, and she just feels terrible. And then like the thing about the show is the judges roll with it. They don't spend their time saying, I can't believe that you were so careless to have done this. They're just like, oh, we'll taste your two desserts back to back, and we'll sample, and like we'll try your custard and your.
Oh, that's cool.
They just like they basically just like do what like reasonable, kind humans would do in that situation, and that's like the show is. It's not that it's like syrupy sweet. It's just that it's not mean. Like they're just not jerks.
And as Americans, we don't know how to process.
We don't.
this.
Yeah, it's very strange for us.
Well, and that's...
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Okay, this has bothered me from the beginning. Why the fuck do they make them bake outside?
No one knows. No one knows.
Because that's not reasonable or kind. They make them bake outside in the middle of fucking summer.
Yeah, the chocolate episode was like one of the hottest days.
And then they're like, oh, it's a hot day in the tent. Make your fucking chocolate rolls that won't melt.
True.
And you're like, that is an unreasonable thing to ask somebody to do.
I think it has to be that so everything is shot in this very large tent.
Right.
It's super easy to like. First of all, it is now iconic. Like the tent is.
Why did they start it there? And that's
because it's super cheap and easy to film it.
I mean, yeah, and the tent is temperature controlled, by the way, which is but
it still has like the. Yeah, I did watch one where they were trying to do like ice cream and chocolate.
Oh, it definitely has
truffles.
like,
yeah,
but
yeah, and it's something very nice. Like, it kind of goes to why this works so well as an amateur show, because while some of them have like gone on to like host a couple like small documentaries for BBC, really they're all not chefs. They all have their real jobs. They only film on the weekends, and you hear them talk. I mean, they sometimes say what they do, but really you just kind of hear them go like, "I had a busy day at work, so I only was able to practice this for like a little bit on Tuesday."
I also love, like, one of the things that they do is, like, when they do sort of this is who the contestants are, it's fun because it's very slice of life. Like, everybody has aggressively normal jobs. Like, like, so-and-so.
A banker in London.
No, yeah, and, like, but they still bother to, like, go and, like, take a little bit of footage of him sitting at his desk and, like, talk about when he's a baker and show his kids, and, like, it's just a very human show also but I think also, like, it could be boring, but it's not, because it's got a couple little spices, if you will, to, like, season, you know.
Yeah.
The first is the hosts, who are a delight.
So we've had 2 sets, because there's a BBC set and then one
Mel
crossover.
And Sue, whose last names I do not know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the BBC set is the woman from QI and Noah Fielding, who are both crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Both sets are delightful.
Especially their second season. The first season, they're really just testing the waters. And then the second season they're both on there, they're fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite moment between them in the second season, because they have, like, Sandy hosts QI and she's like, there's one moment where she's doing the whole, like, 15 minutes, whatever, and Noel's just in a gorilla suit, and he's just sprinting in the back, and it's, like, barely in frame.
Weird.
And just, like, sprinting out of focus.
Well, and, like, Mel and Sue are much chiller, who are, like, and, like, when Mel and Sue left, everyone was like, this show can never be good again. And then it was, and everyone's happy now. But Mel and Sue are just a very understated kind of weird that works very, very well. Like, they basically just go around and troll the contestants in a very good-natured way.
And sometimes fuck up their shit.
Yeah.
There is more than one episode where Mel or Stu fucking, like, leans in some fucking pie crust or, like,
no, I just watched one
over.
Where Mel, like, put her elbow in someone's, you know, like, they do these challenges where, we gotta talk about the structure, too.
Yeah,
because I think the structure is, the other reason it's perfect is the structure. But often the first challenge involves making, like, 36 identical blank. And I just watched one where, like, Mel just, like, puts her elbow on the table and leans into, like, one of these dudes' 36 perfect, I don't remember what. And the look on her face is just so human and pure of her just being like, I just did that, and I'm sorry.
There was one I watched where Sue, like, tasted the custard, thought it was great, and then ran away with the bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And he's like, I'm
doing
working.
Something. And it's like, the show just, like, never takes advantage of, like, it just lets them be people. And I think, that combined, I do want to talk about the structure, because I also think that the structure is the other reason it's a perfect reality show.
Can I say my favorite Noel Fielding moment?
Yes.
There's a moment where, like, I just remember the contestant is Bryony from the latest season.
Yes.
She's, like, freaking out because, like, her thing isn't baking fast enough. And he's like, what can I do to help? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, all right, I'm drawing a little cat saying fuck on your instructions. And then he walks away. And it's really funny.
He likes to draw.
He's just a delight.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, the structure is really amazing because, you know, there's now been 9 series of this airing. 10th will come later this year. And, you know, I'm watching a new season of another podcast show, RuPaul's Drag Race. And that is one where 11 seasons in, I feel the structure is really, really stale. And like a lot of American shows, that show is now overly reliant on sympathetic backstories. Like, it is now becoming part of the structure of, like, for episode 2, when people were putting on makeup, they're going to talk about how, like, they had an alcoholic father. Like, it is now, like, and now they're going to bring that up every single episode. Not that isn't horrible. That now becomes the reality show narrative of this journey. That doesn't really happen here. It's all very kind, and also because the structure is just so simple in a good way, that every episode still feels fresh because you don't need to change anything, because every episode is different with the same format.
Yes.
So you want to break it down?
It's basically just, so they start with, I don't remember what they call it. It's just the first challenge. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, make this.
Yeah, I mean, every week is a theme, so there's always, and they switch it up a little bit, but there's always a breads week, there's always a pastry week, there's always a biscuits week, cookies
and
week.
sometimes they have, like, things like vegan week, or
we just
vegan
watched,
week was crazy.
We just watched Advanced Doughs, or Advanced, which was pretty funny. Like, just that it's a funny phrase, but yeah. So they do a first one that basically they tell them ahead of time, we're going to need you to make, and it is usually some sort of X number of identical blanks, sort of of an iconic basic version of a bread or a cupcake or a whatever. And they judge them all just regular old style. But the contestants have a lot of flexibility about like how they're going to flavor stuff.
Yeah.
Then their second part is an anonymously judged thing called the technical challenge, which is friggin' brilliant. Which is they give them a basic recipe. They say what they're supposed to make, give them the time and a basic recipe, and it's all a surprise that they all find out about in the tent. And it's basically testing like, do you actually know how to bake? Like, can you do more than just follow a recipe? Do you know like how
long this needs to
things
rise?
need, you know, like, and it's also great from a reality show perspective because it means that some things are excellent and some things are a colossal failure. But everyone's on the same footing. You never feel like it's like unfair. And then they end with the signature challenge, and they're so cool, which is like various kinds of sort of big baking challenges. And they've done everything from like 3D tableaus, which are sometimes very cool.
Oh man.
They did a cookie chandelier once that was crazy.
What? That was
That was super cool.
That was
like
super
that
cool.
challenge a lot.
Yeah, and because like there's no forced drama in the show. We mentioned the custard mistake. There's one that I saw in the season I was watching where someone's ice cream was ruined and they threw it away. These are the two biggest things that have happened in the show. I mean, a cake has like topped over a little bit, and when it happens, it's super sympathetic. It's not like 4 different reaction shots and like a record splice. No, it's very, very human and very sympathetic. And like, there's a kindness to the show.
Yeah, and I mean, and like I think the competition works, like the structure works because it feels very fair. They tell them ahead of time, but not so far ahead of time that they'd be able to like perfectly prep everything. They tell them a week ahead of time, this is what you're doing next week. So they've all practiced like crazy people. I had a friend who was trying to get on the show and like thinking about what the actual structure would look like when you're trying to go about your actual life, like it's like one long crazy marathon of your favorite hobby, right? But you know, like all of them like practice what they're trying to do, have ideas about it, but ultimately like everyone is on pretty much equal footing, which means it feels very fair, which means you don't get a lot of seasons where there's one person who's just like dominating every challenge. Like it stays pretty tight, which is great for a competition show. Basically, it's the perfect reality show, and all reality shows should be this. Also, Paul Holliday, who's the quote-unquote mean judge.
How dare you? Paul Hollywood, the quote-unquote mean judge, he is only as mean as, like, Simon Cowell in recent seasons of America's Got Talent, where really he loves everybody, but occasionally has to make a sad face. Paul Hollywood.
I have a slight disagreement
I
with
love
this.
Paul Hollywood, and you are wrong.
I think that in the initial, so the first episodes that are on Netflix, which I don't know what fucking season that is,
5.
He behaves towards some young female contestants in a way that's super sketchy. Like, it's gross, and like the way that he talks to them is like really
it's not great,
off-putting, and I don't think that is okay. And I would say that he has definitely improved. He has improved since that first watching of him, but I do think that he is an inflated buffoon. And I don't know how much of that he's playing up, but I do find him mostly irritating.
I mean, he is an inflated buffoon.
Every Jesus needs a devil, and so does Great British Bake Off.
And I think that the fact that he is an ego that is swollen, like, makes it work, because like professional chefs are assholes.
But there's a difference, and I might not have seen the seasons where he acted like that. So or if I did, I just completely missed it because I'm dumb. But like,
I will say there's never. I mean, like, I know what you're talking about, but I will say there's never been complaints, which I think is in a show where it seems fairly likely in these areas that this would have come up. I will say that there have not been any complaints, which is good to know. Because I agree with you. It rings weird.
I don't know. I don't think that if there are complaints or not is actually like a good metric in this world about whether or not a celebrity did something bad to someone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
But I mean, that's,
because there's the 2 hosts we've talked about, then there's the 2 judges. Paul Hollywood's been on every single season. He's the one who carried over to Channel 4. The first one was Mary Berry,
Fragile Mary Berry.
Mary Berry, who is this older woman, has to be like a foot shorter than Paul Hollywood. And the more she kept like insisting upon certain things, the more she reminded me of Olivia Colman in The Favorite.
Oh my god!
Because she just is so intense when she goes like, "This needed more coloring," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mary Berry." And like, there's one episode I just watched where like you get like little hints of her. Like she like looked at one loaf, and Paula just goes, "It's a bit lopsided," and she just stares and goes, "It looks drunk." And then someone makes a cocktail like donut thing, and Mary Berry is the happiest she's ever been because
she's a very happy woman.
She likes the donut mimosas that happened. But the new,
I really like Prue, the new Mary Berry.
She hasn't worn on me yet. I don't.
She's just sturdier. I'm less afraid she's gonna shatter into bits of nut brittle.
That is a consistent word with Mary Berry. It's true.
I'm like, what if Mary Berry trips? Like, what's gonna happen? She's gonna crumb. I like Prue a lot. One of my favorite parts of the past season was that, like, some of the contestants were like, there was one contestant, and I can't remember her name, but she was like, I don't care about the Hollywood handshake. I want a Prue handshake. And those kinds of, like, little, like, things are really nice.
Yeah, 'cause that is the strange subplot of this show, that if Paul really likes it, he'll give you a handshake. And they keep noticing he's becoming more generous. Because the show's too nice.
He's doing a lot more handshakes.
Because even when they're doing
soft,
when they're doing the judgment, doing the technical challenge, which is my favorite part of any episode, whenever the meanest, the person who got last anonymously, it's still like flavor wasn't there. He's not going to go Gordon Ramsay on it. Like, what fucking idiot did this?
No, yeah, it's just
like,
not. Yeah,
it's like the texture could have been stronger. Who was this? I'm sorry. And then they all hug at the end. And it's such a nice show. It's good. It's just good. I give this a very pleasant 4.3.
I'm gonna give it a 4.6 in the logic that it may not deserve it like overall, but it is like a best in show for reality shows. So that's my logic.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like actual reality when you're watching it, and not in a depressing way, but in a way where you're like, maybe it's good to be alive. It's the exact opposite of Elliott Smith.
It is that.
True. JC, what do you give it?
I give it a solid 4.5. It's good. I'll watch it forever.
Yeah, I think I just don't find it as bingeable as the other reality shows. I think because it is just like it doesn't fall into the same.
Calm.
I like watch one season and go, I'm good, and I'll watch another season like in a few months.
Yeah,
like I won't like finish all of Netflix right now.
I can watch 3 episodes in a row, no problem.
Yeah, I feel like
more than that, it's kind of.
Are you gonna watch some more?
Probably
beyond like the 5 you watched so many months ago.
I think I saw a few episodes this year.
What are you going to finish?
Pedro, I can't believe you didn't watch it. Remember, like, when I started on the podcast and I was like, I'm watching the Great British Bake Off, and then Pedro was like, no, we should talk about it now, because it'll be a really long time until we talk about it again. And here we are, and Pedro acted like he'd seen it, but I didn't realize.
I'd seen some of it.
What are you going to finish first? The season you're on of Bake Off or Blade Runner 2049?
Oh, fuck.
It's a trick. He'll never finish either.
I'll probably finish Game of Thrones first.
Okay, so the show in
None of the
3
above
weeks.
is the
None
answer.
of the above, so Sarah's right.
Okay.
Somewhere in there I'll finish Jack Bauer.
Okay.
Okay.
Remember when you gave that a 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on.
We're
with our
all
lives
free
from
will, just like you can't imprison us in time jail.
JC, did you hear that on this show that Pedro gave the show 24 a 5?
That's the least surprising thing I've ever
that. It's really pretty true, yeah.
Austin, we have known Pedro since we were like 14 years old.
I know.
You know that is the show he loves more than anything else.
He hasn't finished
you
it.
could have asked me.
I hadn't started watching it except for the podcast, and I watched like 1.5 seasons, maybe 2 seasons, and I was like, this is the best.
This is when you were like unemployed, so you watched a lot of. You watched 2 seasons of 24 by the time that aired.
Yep.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, we're going to be taking next week off because...
So now we're in next week,
Yes. Yes, correct. We'll be taking next week off. So there won't be an episode on May 16th. Back to next week. But when we do, we'll be covering the 342nd entries on all those lists. And the following things.
We are going to be finishing our trilogy and watching The World of Apu.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, exciting. The album is Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan.
I love that album.
I'm very excited about.
Oh, the song is Superstar by the Carpenters, and I love the Carpenters.
Oh, no.
This is going to be quite the episode.
Oh, man, Blood on the Tracks is, like, my favorite Bob Dylan album. I'm just looking at it.
It is. Oh, my God, Sarah. It's the best Bob
it's
Dylan
very
album.
good.
And the TV show is the miniseries called Widows. This is what the new movie was based off of, and I did not realize that this British miniseries was written by a podcast favorite, Linda LaPlante, who created Prime Suspect.
Ooh,
Shut
cool.
up.
Yeah, so
The fuck?
I have not seen the miniseries. I have seen the movie, and the movie's great, adapted by Gillian Flynn. So, till then, you can go over to theartofmore.com, check out any podcasts that we do on the channel. As of the time this came out, Let's Take 5 is officially over. Last week we had...
Take 5 is dead. Long live Let's Take 5.
But it's not coming back.
Yeah, it's not coming... That works when, like, the old king dies, there's a new king. So, like, long live this new king.
Oh, wait, is that why you're supposed to say that?
Yeah, the king is dead. Long live the king.
Because it's a new king.
Shit. Never mind.
Did you only now know that?
It's a learning podcast.
Cool.
But yeah, Let's Take 5. Last Saturday we aired There Will Be Blood episode, and then yesterday was our big Let's Take 5 wrap up. Super proud of everything about that show. Absolute blast to do, and happy there's now a very large library of over 130 episodes that you can listen to Eric and my half-hour takes on 130 of the greatest films ever made. So super proud of that. Also, we have Ad Absurdum, which should have a new episode sometime this month.
One could imagine that would happen, yeah.
Hell yeah. Check out all those old episodes as well. Special thanks to Adam Lord for all of his awesome music. Follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod. Leave us a review on iTunes and other places. Help people find our show. Yeah, we had our best downloads last month, so thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
How many?
Wow. Not going to say it on air.
Okay.
Great.
8.
Oh.
No.
We know all those people.
No, we had 7 episodes. I'm really embarrassed. But yeah, thank you all so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm JC.
And I'm Pedro.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.